This camera is recording.
Okay, yeah.
Hi everybody, we have a webcast for you today, lunchtime talk here at Toronto Rehab Institute. Today we've asked Mark Semple, who's one of the researchers on our team, the home and community team, to give a demo of some of the hidden tools that are available to you in PowerPoint for doing illustrations. He gave us a little demo to our team a while back, and we all were kind of amazed by the ability to draw and make illustrations. And so we thought we wanted to record this as a YouTube video. So I'll turn it over to him. There we go.
Cool, hi. So I use PowerPoint mostly to draw vector graphics, and so in any sort of computer illustration there are two types of pictures you can have. You can have vectors and you can have rasters. So a raster is like a classic photograph where it's individual pixels in a big array, and if you zoom in far enough you'll see little jagged edges. But a vector is one that is sort of defined mathematically, and you can zoom in as much as you want and it always remains very sharp and crisp. And so that can be really useful for scientific illustrations and presentations. It also keeps the files to be really small, which is useful as well. Used a lot for making logos and icons and stuff like that. So PowerPoint actually has a pretty extensive host of tools to make these. You can often see people make little stick figures out of blue rectangles and circles and whatnot, but if you get into it, you can actually make whatever shape you want and can customize them in any way you could imagine. But there are a few tools that make that a lot easier to do that aren't immediately available. So if you go to File, Options, this is the 2010 version, I think, maybe 2013.
This might be the
They're pretty much the same, actually. But if you go into Options here, go to Customize Ribbon. Oh, all right, we'll retail that. Okay. Customize Ribbon. So here are all of the things that PowerPoint can do. If you go to All Commands, oh, no. All commands, and these are all of the little tabs along the top where you can access your controls. And so you can actually make your own groups of controls for whatever you want there to exist. So what I usually do is, the ones related to doing your shapes and vectors are in the drawing tools. So if you're in drawing tools, here, make a new group. We'll call it, I don't know, whatever. We'll call it new group, that's fine. There are a few commands that you're going to want to add. So one's not in ribbon, that'll be a good one to start. So we go down to, it's all alphabetical. Here we go. Shape combine is a good one. Shape intersect is a good one. Shape subtract and shape union. So those are not actually available by default in PowerPoint. They are in the newest version, 2015, 2016. You can get them a little easier, but in any of the older ones you have to add them in yourself. So now if I hit OK and I add a little shape, say a rectangle, and now we have this option for drawing tools, which is where we are, and now we have this new group that we just invented here. So what these tools do is, if I say copy and paste, now I have two rectangles, and I click both of them there by holding Control. You can now union, subtract, intersect, or combine these shapes. So what that means by union, now I have one shape, which is pretty useful. Rather than stacking things, you can just make a single thing. Control Z if I undo. You can combine, so anywhere that they're overlapping disappears, and you get something like that. Subtract is one removes from the other. And then lastly, intersect is whatever's overlapping is all that remains. So with those sort of four simple manipulations, you can get some pretty interesting geometry, and you can do really anything you want. So today I'm gonna demonstrate drawing this scene here, which is a demonstration of sling sorter, which is these slings that go underneath the person and hooks onto the lift above. So it looks like a fairly complex scene, but I'll draw just a human and being hung up by this thing. Actually, I did it yesterday, so I'll show you what it might look like in the end. If I just delete that. So it's simple, and there's a lot more work that could go into it with details and whatever, but basically we can turn that into that without too much trouble. So these are all of the shapes you can do if you just go into Insert Shapes. These are the default ones. So if there's a part of it that looks like something, you can just, like maybe his head looked like a circle. That's a good place to start. You can just draw something like that. But then once you have it there, you can right-click and hit Edit Points, and it actually gives you control over the shape that you're manipulating. So these little black dots are the key points, and in between are just lines that define them. So I could click this, move it, and change what the shape looks like. Since we can't really see his face, you could actually go ahead, go to Shape Fill, With no fill, now we just have an outline, so I can see, make the line sort of match with this head. You zoom in a bit, makes it a bit easier. Let's see. You can, and if you click on anywhere on line, you add a new key point. So there's a new key point. And from a key point, you can actually change the lines coming off of it. So you can sort of shape this to be like this guy's head here. Grab that one. And so usually key points, there's 3 different types of key points you can have. They all look the same, but you can see when I grab one of the vectors coming off of this, they're coupled. So if I move one, it moves the other. So I think that's called a smooth line. If you right click on one of the key points, oh, I missed it, hold on. There we go, we have a smooth point, straight point, and corner point, and they all behave slightly differently. If I hit a corner point, I can control them independently. So I can move this one without affecting the other one, which helps. Move this one maybe in here, make that a corner point. Grab something like that. Let's see, move this one a little. Head over the pillow. So complex shapes can be fairly tedious maybe, and you have to be patient and pretty into detail.
Can you add more editing points?
Yeah, so if I click right here, you can just add another point. And then I can actually change, if you right click on a line segment between points, you can, oh, sorry, I missed it. You can actually change what the type of line it is. So you can have a straight segment or a curved segment. So you can see the one between these 2 lines is kind of curvy. If I hit straight, it'll just flatten out. Same kind of goes here, straight segment. Here we go. And then I'm going to get the top of his head here, so I'll make this a little longer. It's pretty good. It's a little shorter. And so you can do this all without a picture underneath, but if you want to get the proportions and stuff right, I figure it's usually a good place to start. Let's make that a straight point. Faces are tricky usually. Right, let's get that down there. There's the nose here, maybe another point there. Anyway, so like that's not perfect, and I can get back to it later, but it's usually just get like a foundation of these are the main sort of chunks of my drawing, then you can sort of refine it later and zoom in and get all the detail that you might want. So zoom out. Let's see, we will add shape. So this is the shape that like you can start with pre-existing shapes like a rectangle or a cylinder or a trapezoid, whatever you want. But there's another one here called freeform, which if you click on that, it's just sort of point by point. So if I start, it's just a straight line until I click again. So I click, say here, and then here. You can just sort of click around his entire torso. And then there's a strap here, so I'll kind of go through the strap around his stomach there. And it doesn't need to be perfect on your first run around, but let's see, where did I start? Somewhere around there. There we go. So I click my way around, and then we have a piece approximately the size of his shirt, which if you go into fill, maybe rather than making it fully invisible, I'll just make it transparent, which you can do. If you go to more fill colors, you can increase transparency of a shape. So now I can see most of the way through it. Give it an outline, maybe in black. Zoom in a little bit. Edit points. And then again, you can sort of change where everything is, right? Make things smooth, make them round, readjust them such that it fits the shape underneath as much as you want. Maybe I'll add now this strap that's holding him up here. Insert shape. This guy.
And then can you
Yep, so anytime you have a shape here, you right click, go to edit points, and then it brings up all the key points, which is where I clicked when I drew the shape out. And you can add as many as you want. Like I could add one there and move it over. And then you can change if they're curvy or straight or whatever you want to do with that. I'll fill it in here. So fill darker with a black outline. Cool. And so this is a useful tool actually. If you click on a shape and you're on the home page, yeah, there's this one called Format Painter. So you have a shape highlighted and you click on Format Painter. It'll sort of charge your mouse with its style. And then the next shape you click on adopts that. So this, if I click on this, it'll go orange and transparent. So if you have like a bunch of things you want to make look the same, Format Painter one of them, then click all of those things. And then that'll kind of charge those up. So let's draw this cage up here. So this top one I shouldn't need to click just because it looks like a rectangle. So I'll get that top bar maybe, grab this and rotate it a bit. You can actually get a little more fine tuning in the rotation if you go to rotation options. That's pretty good. Sure, all right. No fill, outline red, all right, so that'll sort of act as that bar. Now we have this sort of part coming down here, which looks kind of like, I don't know, a trapezoid-ish thing. So maybe I'll choose this guy here, flip it around. I want to change the rotation. Wrong button. Okay, hold on. Let's make it no fill there. So we have this blue shape roughly where we want. There we go. So now I want to edit the points, give it sort of this round corner. I would probably move that in, add a point there. There we go. And then you can actually, if you hit Control D when you have something up, highlighted, it just duplicates it rather than copying and pasting. It's a little faster. So another useful one is, like when you're changing the size of a shape, you often want to keep the proportions, like the length and height, the same. So if you go to size and position of a shape, you can lock the aspect ratio. So it means when I shrink it in one dimension, it shrinks to scale in all dimensions. It still maintains the same aspect ratio. So we can move it over. Sort of has a gap there. Or something like that. So now I'll use that subtraction tool that I showed you earlier. I click on this one, the outside one, which I'll just fill in maybe as that. Fill that in that. So I click on the outside one, hold Control, click on the inside one, and go to Shape Subtract. We have this sort of bar thing. Click on the over bar and this bar, we can shape union, and now we have this kind of cage, which looks more like the cage. Now it's not perfectly smooth, so maybe I want to go and edit the points a bit. Maybe make this a straight line. Something like that. It looks close enough for now that we can move on. But what else? Oh yeah, okay, one more thing here, let's see. If we want to draw this back strap here, which is the other side of the sling, we can only fit a little segment of it, so it doesn't matter what we draw behind really. Just sort of go up here. There we go, but now it's on top, and we want it to be layered behind everything else because it's the furthest away from the camera. So there's another interesting thing. If we do Oh, where is it? Alt F10? Control F10? No, I don't know. Shift F10? Where is that? There's a thing called selection pane, which brings up all of the objects that are currently on your slide, and you can control the order that they're being shown to you. It's got to be here somewhere. There we go, selection pane. So click on that. So here's all of our things. So this one I have currently highlighted is in blue, and they give it a default name freeform 8, which doesn't mean anything to us. So we'll call it top sling back. And click on any of our things and name them. So this one here, freeform 5, is top sling front. This red cage we'll call, oh, that's a picture, that's the background photo. Okay, we'll leave that. This is lift cage. This one. So it just helps you keep yourself organized, see what everything that you have, and then if you there's something that's sort of difficult to click on, you can click on the name here and it'll highlight it for you. T-shirt. And I guess this one was okay. Oh, no, and right on it. Head. So it's something that you don't want to see anymore. You can click on the eyeball and it goes away. So if you want to see how you're doing, you can move the picture and oh, that kind of looks all right. If I click on I want to paint the sling to look like the other sling, format painter, this guy, and then you can actually click reorder and move them down. So I want this to be behind everything. There we go. Shape fill. Remove transparency. Paint it like green or something. So I guess we need to draw the arms there. So let's still do a free form because it doesn't really look like any other shape that I can think of. We sort of have. Whoops, hold on a sec. Okay, let's just fill that in now. So it doesn't really look like arms yet, it's just kind of a gray blob, but that's okay. We'll rename freeform 10 arms. We'll move it so it's behind the t-shirt and the sling, so we'll move it down a few. That's sort of where it is in space, or in terms of layering. But we need some details still, so if we zoom in a bit, we start to add this line. So when you do the freeform shape, you don't need to connect it to the start. If you do, it'll fill in, but if you don't, it'll just be a line, whatever shape you want. I'll add a new one. This guy here, sort of for this part of the elbow. We've got his fingers there, you know.
You're not dragging and dropping that, you're moving it up with your...
Yeah, I'm just right now using the keys because it's really like sort of fine-tuned. You can just do like little pixel by pixel. So now I have these 5 new lines sort of for details on his hand. You can, while you're on this selection pane, you can click and hold control and get all of them highlighted. What's useful then is to put them into a group such that whatever changes you apply to them will apply to all of them in one. So by doing that, you can either go to, with them highlighted, format group, or just hit Control G and they'll just become one sort of object, which one you can change the color and they'll all go at once, which is pretty useful. And then you can rename that group, like maybe I'll call it hand details or something. You can minimize it and it basically acts as a single object, which you can then reorder as you wish. So move it in front or behind other things. So I need to fill the arm in here. Maybe like it look a little normal. Zoom out. And it's starting to look all right. It's not great yet, but you know, a little more recognizable. Let's add this other sling maybe to make the t-shirt go away so I can see it. There we go.
Is there a way to keep the background like that? So for instance, if you wanted to keep the points in his shirt or the folds in his shirt, and you wanted to make that opaque, like the green color opaque, is there a way to keep that?
So what I would like to include sort of these creases here.
Yeah.
I would say actually probably best to just draw those in, which I'll show you how to do. It's really not that difficult because they're just sort of lines. But as soon as you keep those in, it's no longer a vector graphic, so you lose a lot of the advantages that you get by doing this whole sort of approach. So I guess maybe let's paint that. Click on this one, format painter, that one, there we go. So yeah, if you want to do that, let's see, go to insert, shape, yeah, because that stuff's really important to get like a 3D looking, a more realistic kind of picture. So let's get a line, draw it down along this crease. Okay. Shape, line, maybe catch this crease. Goes all the way down there. Yeah, this all depends very much like what you want the output to look like. If you want it to be more realistic, you'll go on, it'll take longer, you'll add more details, and like you could add the guy's pocket, or you could add little creases in everything. It would take you a lot longer and it's more tedious, but you would get a more realistic looking picture out of it. So if that's what you're going for, these are the sort of details you have to pay attention to. We'll add some up here too, like we've got a sleeve one here. So I'm just every time going to freeform, sort of clicking along where I see the line going. And then I'll collect all of those, group them together, and then sort of make them work with this shirt as we see it. Okay, so let's take those, freeform 25, 24, 23, 2, 20, 19, 18, 17, no, not that one. Those ones, put them in a group. Let's put his shirt back. Let's change the colors now though. Let's make this shirt, I don't know. So if you want, you can, like these are the pre-selected colors, but you can go in and use a little wheel and make whatever color you want. Make it like nice dark red or something, I don't know. How about sure. So we can take these lines, outline. So you don't change color of a line, it's just their shapes without a fill, so it's just the outline again that you want to change. Make them the same, but then maybe change them a little bit, so more colors. Let's make it a little bit darker. There we go. But there's more you can do with your lines actually. So if you go to, no, not that one. Let's see, what do we do with our lines? Weight, there we go. So more lines, because it gives you all of the options to play with your lines. But you have color and style. So there are different types of lines, not that it's a huge importance, but basically the ends of a line, you can either have like a square cap, you can have it a round cap, or you can have it like a little sharp thing. I think round looks the nicest, it's sort of softer. Make those both round. But you can then change the thickness of your lines. You can see as I make this thicker, so do the creases on a shirt. Usually details I like to keep a little smaller than outlines of things, but that's okay. You can also change what the line looks like if you want different numbers of stripes or something. You can add dotted lines, you can add dashed lines, dot dash, whatever you want. You can also add arrows to any of them. It's like when you have an arrow object, it's basically just a line with a little cap on the end. But I think that looks good there. Maybe one Cool. And that I have them as a group that applied to all of my lines on my shirt there. So yeah, that looks pretty cool.
Shadows doesn't compromise the vector.
Oh no, shadows, yeah, those are part of the vector thing as well. Yeah. So that's, yeah, any shaper thing you can, there's all of these other more advanced kind of things here. You can add shadows, and it's sort of, it changes the picture. So if you're gonna add shadows, do it in a consistent way, I would say. It's like if one thing has a shadow and something else doesn't, that might look kind of weird. So there are other things you can do, and this gets pretty complicated, sort of for a shadowy effect. Like we wanted the bottom part of a shirt to be darker than the top, because if there's a light above, that's what it might look like. I would sort of draw a new shape defining where I kind of want that line to happen, something like that, and just cap it off as a geometry, which looks kind of weird. So I would now, so as you're doing these graphics, it's really useful to sort of save where you are, and if you want to try something new, you can get back to it. So if you have a slide on the right-hand side here, you can hit duplicate slide, and it'll make an exact copy. So from then on, you can do your changes, and if you don't like it, where you were before is saved. You can go back to it. So I'd go here, click on this shirt and this funny new little rectangle I drew. Go to shape intersect here, and I would have just the lower part, which I can then cut. Control X, move back here, delete this guy, Control V, paste up. Oh no, I did the wrong one. There we go, okay. Copy that. Delete that, paste that. So now the bottom line is perfectly aligned with where the shirt was. I can now go fill, change the color, make it a bit darker, sort of represent a shadow, and then move it down in the order. So probably just above t-shirt. Oh, maybe that's too dark. Maybe I'll make it a little lighter. And then if you want to remove the outline. And so now it's sort of this depth-ish looking thing. Like, there's lots of different stuff you can do. But for some pictures, that might make sense. You can also do gradients if you want to get really fancy and have like a lighter fading to a darker. That might look kind of cool. Let's see. Shape fill. So you can actually control your gradient pretty finely. It gives you these little tabs here. So if I don't want that one, I want this. Choose which color you want. So I want my gradient to be this one, into that. Oh, hold on. There you go. So that's, kind of shadow-like. So it's just, yeah, there's lots of little effects you can do like that. But at the same time, it's still being a vector, right? So I can highlight all of these parts I've had, save it as a matter of kilobytes, and it's a lossless file. So you can make it as big as you want, you don't lose any information. It just looks really smooth. So let's fill this guy in, like a gray or something, black border. So we get to adding these lower ones. There we go. Format painter, this guy. Insert shapes. Whoops, wrong way. I just have to draw his legs. So let's name some of these. I've been behind on that. This is shirt creases. This is bottom thing front. Or mid thing front. Oh, missed it there. Oh no. There we go.
This program on Word as well, or is that only on PowerPoint?
I don't know if all of these tools are available in Word, but I guess if you have Word, probably also have PowerPoint. I know some of the tools are, but it's just not as nice of an environment to do this type of thing. Though you could probably do like the edit points and that kind of thing in Word. I'm sure you could, yeah. And this was draw the pants now. So I'll just pick this one. Doesn't need to be perfect on your first run through.
And you can always go in and edit the points after.
Exactly. So my first one, I always get just like a crude shape that is roughly where it needs to be, and then zoom in and get little fine detail points later. Yeah. And so as soon as you know that a bit of geometry, like these pants are going to be behind that sling, it doesn't matter what you draw in that area. It's like I can just do a zigzag or whatever. It doesn't matter until I get back here, and then I move it into the right spot there. So now you can't even tell what I drew, right? So this guy needs to go back a bit. Whoop, uh-oh. There we go. We'll maybe black outline. Make it sort of transparent or something, so we can see and edit the points a little bit. Edit points. So I guess it also depends sort of, again, what style you want your graphic to look like in the end. I often like doing it with just straight lines without any curves. That can be a sort of a nice effect. But again, as long as you're consistent, it'll turn out okay. But as long, if some of your parts have nice smooth lines or all curvy and other parts are kind of rigid, blocky looking, you know, cubist characters, it's going to look kind of weird having those in the same picture. So just, I guess, make a decision early and stick with it for whatever you're doing. There, that could be the pants. Let's, I don't know, make blue jeans or something. That's kind of bright. I guess another advantage of doing the vector style is that you can change the colors and styles very easily. Unlike a photograph, right? You can't necessarily make them wear a different color shirt. So that's really helpful. Sure. So already that looks okay. So if I remove the picture, all right, that doesn't look too bad. His head, so I don't really want to draw the pillow. We could choose to draw the entire bed, the whole scene, whatever much you want to include. I don't think I want to. So you can delete this point. Maybe I'll make his head a little rounder. I don't know, heads are tricky. I always hate drawing heads. Sure, something like that. I guess there's the other one sling we're missing. We'll add that in. Put that down a bunch. Call that. And then what happened to pants? There we go. We'll call that pants. And then we'll do our painter thing. Grab that, paint that. There we go. So that's, yeah, a pretty quick overview. There's probably a lot more I could show you guys, but I don't know. In terms of making this picture, again, there's more details I would add. I'd add the little hooks. I'd probably add some pants and little creases in the pants. Shading here, shading there. But I think I touched on most of the details that I would use, most of the tools I would employ to make something like that.
Any questions from anyone watching? I'm sure people are going to ask Mark after. I think that's a great general overview. Thanks very much, Mark, for doing that.
Yeah.
I'll just stop the broadcast here.